What's up, guys? Welcome back to another summertime video. So since we are back to summer, that does mean one very important thing, and that is more jet ski videos. So anybody that's been watching the channel for too long, you know that we've already got two Wave Runner GP760s, and those things both rip pretty good shape. Didn't really have to do a lot to get them running, and haven't really had to do that much to keep them maintained. However, we do only have two, and it'd be really nice to get some more out on the water just so you can get more people involved and everything and have even more of a blast. So today, that's what we did. Right here in the back of the old F350, we have got a Polaris SL750. Now, for whatever reason, not quite sure what Polaris had going on, not very familiar with their jet skis, but the two Yamahas are both 760s, and they are 2 cylinders. And this Polaris is actually a triple. Nice thing about this Polaris, though, is it was free. Now, you might be asking yourself why somebody would be giving away a free jet ski that doesn't have any cracks in the hull. Really isn't that messed up as far as the upholstery and everything goes. But, pull the seat off here. I mean, this thing is not perfect by any means cosmetically, but it is a bit worse underneath the seat. So you can see this thing is pretty ripped apart. The guy we got it from had torn it apart, kind of digging into it, what was the issue, and you probably already saw it.
We have sort of a problem here. Yeah.
So at the very least, cylinder number 3, piston number 3, or number 1, however you want to look at it, thing is pretty chewed up. And yeah, it's not gonna run. Nice thing is, though, the bottom end really doesn't look that bad. I don't really see a ton of metal shavings. And the cylinder, it's not perfect, but I think it can be honed. If not, they do sell used ones on eBay. So that's what we're looking at. We're gonna have to do a top end on this guy and hopefully get it running. Before I do buy a top end kit, though, being as it's a triple, it's a little more expensive than if it were just a 2-cylinder. So we're gonna pull this thing out, get it set on the cart here, and I'm actually going to pull the motor out so I can get a better look at it, just because if there is a crack block or it's somehow damaged way more than I'm thinking it is, I really don't want to put the money into it, because top end kit alone is about $400 to $500 for a decent one, depending on what you're looking at. And then besides that, at the very least, I know I'm looking at a battery, so we're already looking at $500 to $600 just there, which is about all I want to spend on this thing. These Polaris jet skis I don't think are very much known for their reliability. I'm always seeing them all over Marketplace blown up, and somehow people are still asking like $1,000 for them blown up. But being free makes me a little more willing to put a little bit of money into it anyway. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and, like I said, pull it out of here, get it on the little cart, and then we'll get to pulling the motor out. Nice thing about this Polaris is it's a little bit shorter, I think, than the Yamahas. So in theory, it should be lighter. I haven't actually looked up the weight specs on these things, because those Yamahas are really not that light. You guys remember the blue Sea-Doo I had? I initially picked it up in my red truck out there, and getting that thing out the bed of that truck was an absolute nightmare. So we'll see what I can do by myself, otherwise we're gonna have to get some help. It's not the worst I've dealt with, but it's definitely not light either. Out of the way so it's not getting destroyed. It's actually easier than I anticipated. There we go. Just to give you guys kind of a little more idea on this thing, I believe it's a 1995. Looks like it does. I didn't even really look this thing over when we picked it up. I mean, hey, free is free, right? It does have some interesting stuff though. That fuel filter looks, I think that's the fuel filter back there. This is a little different. The two GP760s are a lot more mechanical stuff than this one is. It almost kind of reminds me of the Sea-Doo that I had picked up and ended up getting rid of. Looks like it's got an electric trim control, which I don't particularly love because it's just one more thing that can go wrong on these old ones and tends to not be that cheap to replace. Got a little digital gauge cluster. The ones on the GP760 are definitely a lot nicer. But then you got your choke there, which is nice. I like that better than the GP760, which had it, I don't remember which, but on one side or the other. Then you got your little starter button there. This foam pad's pretty torn up, but really can't complain, guys. This was, like I was saying, free. So yeah, definitely the first thing to do though is going to be to get this engine out of the ski, because there can be any number of things that are wrong aside from the motor itself. Free crescent wrench. Moves perfectly. Looks like this is a little crusted in there, but yeah, that'll come out too. That'll give us some nice access. This thing really don't look too bad, guys. I do like this compartment opener better than, well, maybe I spoke too soon. I don't know how that thing goes back in, but it looks like it's held open by this rod here, which is a little better than the cables that the Yamahas use. Those are snapped, I think, on both of our GP760s. It looks like that's actually a tow rope. I was thinking it was like a mooring rope, but yeah. Somebody used this for water skiing, I think. It is kind of interesting they have that water skiing rope there, because you look here on the back, both of the GP760s have like a D-ring, sort of, whatever you want to call it here, that's mounted into the back of the hull. But as you can see on this one, it's got a hole there, which you could very easily mount something, but it won't work for that clip that's on there. And you're not really supposed to mount anything to this grab handle here. That'll not what it's meant for. It'll rip out of there pretty easily. That's probably the CDI box is. Hopefully that's not torn up, because those aren't cheap either. What the guy we got this from said, which I haven't done much research into this myself, but it sounds like these hoses here in the back end up kinking off, and then it starves cylinder 3 or 1, whatever you want to call it, and that's what ends up causing that piston to fail. Don't actually know if either of those pistons are bad, but from what I was seeing, most of these kits come in 3 pistons, so might as well rebuild the whole thing while we're in there instead of just giving it 1 piston. Depending on how those look and what 1 piston costs, we may go with 1 piston, because it would sure be a lot cheaper, I'm sure. And yeah, as far as the shop update goes, this place is still trashed. Still in the process of painting this bay, which you can see we're about halfway done, but still a ways to go. And then of course, the new projects just keep flooding in. Plan is though, to try to get this thing running in the next 2 weeks. So it's not really a deadline or anything. It's just when I would like to have it done, because it's looking like some good temps coming up, and it'd be really nice to get these things all out on the water. So yeah, guys, I think it's going to be a fun project. I figured it'd be a nice little build series that we can do here on the channel. Hopefully you guys will learn something, maybe get a little bit of entertainment out of it. Because if we can get it running, man, it is going to be an absolute blast here in the next few weeks. Clearly it needs a lot of love aside from the motor. It's pretty dirty, but I looked over the whole underside. The guy had it on a engine hoist in his garage, so it was kind of slung up. You could look underneath it, took a quick glance at it, didn't see any cracks. So the next video, we'll be pulling the motor, may even try to wash this thing up with the pressure washer. Either way, you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed, because you're not going to want to miss this build series, guys.